So next up are for loops. And to be honest, I struggled quite a lot understanding this initially, and so I hope I can make this clear. It's once you follow it step by step, it is actually pretty simple. So this is a really important concept in programming. It's the way to iterate over a, a container that contains different values, and then take each value in each iteration, or take one value in each iteration, and then do something with that value and return it back, and return the result. That's exactly what we're doing here. So we take 2.5, we calculate the concentration, and then we output the value that we receive from our concentration. And um, so just to give you an idea of the syntax, how this works, for example, it's so let's do this step by step. Let's first do the initial step. So this is just to show you the iteration. So what happens here is we have a list of genes, and now we take for each gene in genes, starting with the first one and then going through, we just print it. So let's run this. And you can see here, we see the first line, BRCA1, and it goes back, takes the next one, prints it, takes the next one. So that should give you quite clearly an idea of what's going on here. In the next one, we are using an F string. So let's do that. Let's get rid of this so this becomes clearer. So again, one line after the other. Remember the F strings where we just change the variable here. So this becomes, each one will be a temporary variable that will be used in the for loop, will be put here, and then the program goes back, catches the next value, adds, gives it to that temporary variable and prints it out again. Right. Uh, I mean, these are pretty straightforward examples. What we are doing is something a bit more complicated. We are actually taking the value, changing the value, generating a new variable, and then doing something with that new variable. That's the last example here, where we are now getting new values from calculations. So the syntax is always for, and then you can here, this is our temporary variable, and for this we can use any we could just say x or auto or whatever we want, but again, use something that makes sense. So here for concentration in concentrations, or for cons in concentrations, dilution equals this particular concentration value that we're just doing in that one iteration. And then we do this step by step by step, and that runs incredibly fast. So we could have 100,000 values here and it would still generate our outcome pretty quickly. Another pattern that we use quite a lot is we are starting with one list and then we want to do another list. So this is what's happening here. Let's go through this a little bit more slowly. What we're starting with the molecular weights, and then we are generating a new empty list, and that is an initial first step that we have to do here. So that hasn't got anything in it. And now in the for loop, we're capturing the first molecular weight, so 100. We're taking the volume, mass divided by mass divided by molecular weight times 100. And then we do this volumes dot append, and we're putting that value in here. And remember, append basically just adds a value to the end of the list. Here the list is empty, so the list will be getting the first value here. And then if it goes back, catches the next one, it will extend the list, and so on and so on. So if we run this, we see that we're getting a nice new list with our changed values. So initially we print out the original list, and then we're printing out the new list that we're generating by this, and we can do this step by step as well. So have a look through this code and make sure you understand it. This is a very common pattern in that we use in programming. And there are a few other tricks in in using for loops. So sometimes we're not iterating, we're just saying do this 10 times. And in this case, we use this range. So let's get rid of all of this here and just say use the range. Maybe let's introduce range first of all, slowly, because this is pretty important. So let's say like um, range values equals range 5. What would that give us? Let's have a look. Let's do that. And what you see is it gives us a range between 0 and 5. And now I could say for index in range values, and then, whoops, and then I'll say print index. So that should print us out 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what we're seeing, it does. So when it takes a range, it basically gives you a way of iterating over a series of numbers. And the range defines the starting number. So that's the first. It starts with 0. And then the last number you write here will be excluded. So it will go from 0 to 4. So it'll give you 5 steps. So in that way, we can take a stepwise approach without actually using a list. And that's what we're doing here in this first example. Another really useful trick is enumerate, where we want to get both the position of the value that we are taking and the value itself. So let's do a simple enumerate as a demonstration. So let's say enumerate values equals, let's say 100, 200, 300, for example. And then the for loop looks slightly different. We say for, and then we're having two things, index and value in enumerate values. And then we say print index and, whoops, and the controls don't work quite the same in the web browser than in my normal coding thing, and then value. So now what that will do is it will catch the value, but it also say, okay, this is the first value. So it'll print out the index 0 and will say that at index 0, it'll have the value 100 and so on. So that, whoops, if you can see that, something's not right. Oh, we have to say of course, we have to say in enumerate and put this into parentheses. So you see, mistakes happen all the time. And here you go. So 0, 100. We could make this a little bit nicer. Actually, practice F strings as well. And say, so we have a F string here, say for index I, we get value. So that'll print it out very nicely. So then you have a mapped, ooh, another error. Yep. So there you go. We have a mapped occurrence of the index and the value. So these are things that it might be a little bit advanced. I throw them at you now, but it's probably good you know these tools, and whenever you come across them, you will recognize them. So go through these examples, try and understand what's going on. If you don't understand something, just copy and paste that code to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, or Gemini, whatever model you like using, and ask them, I don't understand this, explain it to me. That's a really useful way of taking advantage of LLMs as well. Okay. There's again, like before, some practice here. in the browser, so you can do that. And also there is a lot more going on in the Colab. So it's probably a little bit overwhelming right now, but don't worry, we go through this slowly in the lab as well. And we will, this will come again and again in any program you write. These are the most basic steps. This is like when you learn a language, it's just saying my name is or something like that. So very just the, you know, the groundwork. And if you cover that well, you'll be well equipped to write really nice programs and do some really interesting stuff very quickly. There's a last thing that I will not go into now, but we'll cover that in the lab as well for people that are interested, which is a much faster way of writing and more elegant way of writing these for loops using list comprehensions. But don't worry about that now. We'll cover that later. If you're interested, if you're sort of a power user already and this stuff is boring, and then go through this and have a look. But I'm probably overwhelming you already, so let's maybe stop here with lists and for loops now.